Welcome to the Linux Spotlight. This show is dedicated to showing off the best thing about Linux, our community. This community is made up of developers, distro maintainers, YouTubers, and everyday users. Each one plays a vital role in our community, and the goal is to have a discussion with each individual about their journey into Linux and beyond. So join me now as we turn the spotlight on. Hello, I'm your host, Rocco, and with me today, our special guest is Venn Stone. Venn, how are you?
Special.
Super special.
Man, I'm here. I'm being awesome. It's Friday, you know. What are you going to do in current times? It's not like you can go outside. You can go outside, but you got to turn around and come right back in. There's not a whole lot to do. But, hey, everyone's still here. It could always get worse. I mean, worst case scenario, you work from home if you have to. If you don't, back to be good. But where do you land on that, man? Some people are happy that they're working at home, and some people are very cranky about it.
Well, I know, and it's surprising because it's. I think some of those people that are very angry that they're working at home might have wished they were working from home before, but now that they have to, they're not happy with it. Me personally, I'm still working, fortunately.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Right.
But, you know, you've mentioned what could you do on a Friday night? Well, you could probably watch Linux Gamecast, right?
We do a little community night on Fridays. We're currently fighting our way through like a 20-year-old, 18-year-old game. But yeah, I stream on Fridays if you want to stop by and see that nightmare train as it happens. Yeah, you could. I don't know why you would willingly subject yourself to such inhumane levels of torture. But yes, this is also a possibility.
Well, look, then most people are going to know you by being the leader of the Linux Gamecast. Leader? Is that the right word? The guy who founded it.
Bills, yeah.
The guy.
The guy responsible when things go wrong, because, you know, it's pretty much a like a commune until something breaks, and all of a sudden I'm in charge.
Well, they're going to know you from that. They're going to know you from being a podcaster. And everybody considers you an audio wizard, including myself. That's what people will know you for. But what would you say to somebody if they asked you, who is Venn Stone personally?
Oh, man. Like some really bad pork or something that was left out of the fridge too long. I mean, just bad news. Run while you still have, you know, functioning knees. Who am I? I'm just somebody trying to make the world a slightly better place than it was when I got up. You know, you wake up and like, hey man, gotta do something with this. Maybe we can help some people out. That'd be neat. And you know, try to enjoy yourself too. That's pretty much me. I'm a very neutral third party when it comes to most things. I'm fortunate enough to be in a spot where I still have to work, but I can pick and choose what I want to do, and I have a little bit of extra time for hobbies. This is like a hobby that's just gotten out of control. Unhinged, I believe, is the word. And yeah, that's pretty much me, man. Trying to help out where I can with some of the crazier stuff with Linux, audio-video production. It's been an interesting journey thus far.
Well, I asked this question to a previous guest, and because he was into audio as well. But editing audio is either a job you love or a job you hate. You've been doing it for so many years. It has to be something you love to do, right?
Absolutely. I can't get enough of it. You know, sometimes like I'll just download other people's podcasts and remix them for them. But
no, that's not the answer.
That's probably not. That's definitely one of the reasons that I went to, you know, it's more of a, when I say expense, I don't want anyone to think necessarily money. I'll tell you, everything you see here is used. But a time expense was figuring out how we can record everything live to tape, be it audio, be it video, where there is minimum, because I worked up to it. One thing I hated doing was on Sundays, we'd get done with Linux Gamecast Weekly. I'd have, separate audio, separate video, chop it. And we had issues with the sync, I had to do some tomfoolery with FFmpeg back in the day to even get it remotely close. Sometimes I would make upwards of 400 edits for the audio, just for that one episode, just to maintain some semblance of sync. It was a nightmare. And, I don't want to go back and mess with levels. I hated messing with levels. That's why I started getting the systems in place for multi-track recording. Simply because even if something has went incredibly wrong, delightfully bad after the fact, I'm sure you've recorded a show. You're recording on what, a stereo pair? So if you have an issue with your volume being higher than the guest, now I'm just going to go on a limb. Took you a minute to go back and
maybe just a minute or two,
just a minute. And when you have, say, Rocco's audio track, then my audio track, suddenly oh, Rocco was a little low. Scooch. Oh, I'm done. Look at that. Then you just mix it out. So stuff like that. Same way with video. I want to be able to do real capture, low latency, and that was kind of interesting. But yeah, fun times.
Awesome. All right, let's start with your computer career. What was the first computer that you used?
First computer I ever used. Let's see. How far back? Probably in 286, I think, that my mom had picked up for me, knowing that I'd immediately just disassemble it to component level, which I did. And so used, that one. Probably not for the intended purpose. I needed to see how it worked.
Yep. All right. So with that, when is the first time that you hear about Linux?
Hear about it? Probably reading Slashdot in 95. Definitely hanging somewhere, 94, 95.
So what makes you get into Linux? You hear about it. What is it that, intrigues you to get into it?
Windows 95.
Hated it?
Didn't want to use it. It was ridiculous. I was using DOS, and I think Windows 3.11. I don't know if Workgroups was out then, but 3.11 was, and that was serviceable enough to pop into Windows. Hey kids, you don't remember this? You pretty much stayed in DOS. You went in Windows maybe when you had to, but if you're going to play a game, you're dropping in DOS. You might be making a boot disk. That's how it rolled back in the day, and 95 was just ridiculous. It was a vast cornucopia of nightmare fuel that I didn't want to tingle with. So there was this alternative. Turned out it was free. And that adventure started with Slackware.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what was good about that? Your first experience in Linux, you install this new thing. What are the good things? What are the bad things? What would you tell people when you first tried it?
I didn't know how it worked. I love learning new stuff. It was a multitasking operating system. It could do what I needed it to do, and you got to think about my needs as an end user, as a teenager, not very high. So, it managed to boot. Eventually, I got X up and running. Google didn't exist back then. So
right?
You're plowing through mailing lists and user groups, but it was an operating system. It ran. It wasn't Microsoft. I never got into the attaching part of my identity to the operating system that I run.
Right. A lot of people do that today, though.
Well, they do it with everything. And I always say, it doesn't matter if it's operating system, what car you drive, sports. Make that part of your identity, but don't let it be the most important thing about you.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Now, so you try this Slackware thing. Do you continue using it? Do you go back to Windows, or you just jump right in and just Linux on from there, or what?
Yeah. If you pick something, stick with it. A scorched earth policy. You'll never learn if there's an option B.
I love it.
I mean, it's a very practical way of figuring something out. And I'm like, well, if I'd like to use this computer again.
Yes, but Slackware, or I won't say Slackware, but Linux itself wasn't easy back then. There was a lot of learning to do.
Compared to DOS, not terribly.
I guess it depends on how you look at it.
When you look at people will sit down, you had to learn how to use Windows. A lot of people you forget, from day one, you didn't know what was going on. What is this thing on the desk? I move it around, that thing moves? Okay. Keyboard, if I click here, it does. That was a learning process. So coming in with you can't bring your ego with you over to Linux. You're dealing at its core an enterprise operating system that everything that you've learned with Windows and what you know and you've grown up with and you're comfortable with, none of that applies.
Correct. And how do you deal with being having that uncomfortable feeling though?
It's awesome. Dealing with it.
Well,
the unknown.
The Navy SEALs have this thing where they get comfortable with the uncomfortable, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, but to me, I always shy away from the uncomfortable.
It depends on how you want to look at it. Ultimately, you can look at it one of two ways. You can look at it as a problem, something I have to deal with, or a new adventure. It's a thing to learn. It's a new skill to acquire. And, that doesn't just apply to Linux. For me, that applies to life. There's nothing better than a good problem.
Okay. Some days I could probably approach it like that, and some days might not be able to. So,
fair enough, man.
What is your Linux distro and desktop environment of choice?
Linux distributions. So let's have some fun for everyone at home. Let's roll it back to what have we run here in the studio through all these times? Because that's a fun journey, isn't it? When you think about when we first started. Because I know everyone's got a distribution and they're going to sprinkle a little hate on. They're like, oh, we don't use this because X, or this one's bad because Y. By the way, I run Arch.
Yep.
We started everything with Ubuntu because I needed something that basically had everything set up for multimedia because, we had to try it. Ran that for a while, stayed on Ubuntu for a minute. Now, my personal, if we're going to roll all the way back, it's extremely boring because that was Slackware, that was Red Hat, that was Fedora. That was it.
Yep.
Again, I use Linux as an operating system to do things. I don't do it. What are your thoughts on distro hopping? I look at that as a very fascinating hobby.
Well, so what you're saying is you don't do it.
No, I have to use my computer to do
This
work.
is why you have test machines, dude. This is why they're made.
Because you're not doing work on your main box? Like I said, it's an interesting hobby.
You make a good point, and that's why I haven't distro hopped on the main machine for over a year. And that may seem like a short time, but that's a long time for me. And I have a test machine that I will put new distributions on, but I won't touch the main machine anymore because I need to, when you're editing podcasts and doing this kind of stuff, you need to have a working machine.
It can't be down. And, that was one of the things. I tried running Fedora on this box. We have Threadripper for our main box and moving a little too fast. Ultimately, we decided on Debian. Debian 10 just rolled out, and that's what everything's on now, just Debian 10. Because for these boxes, there's two boxes under my phone here, and it's one of the boxes that you're on. Debian's good. They ship with a real-time kernel, but that doesn't do any good because they set the timer at 400 kilohertz, which is just odd. You got to set that to 1,000. Custom kernels and all of them for real-time preemption, but it's stable. Don't have to mess with it. I can safely run apt update. I don't have to pour through. It's like, what's this? What's this? What's this? Oh, that might mess with something. Let's hold that package back. That's not a dance you want to do when You just want something that you can walk up to, cut on, be done with it. And it's going to work. It's boringly stable. It's the good kind of boring.
Now, do you run into issues that it doesn't have like maybe the latest package of something that you need?
No. If it doesn't have something, go to the Git repo, clone it, compile it, build it, use it. But I understand that's not an option for everybody. So I see the argument too, like I need to run, a current distro, but how often do you run into that yourself? What do you run, by the way? Let's get to that.
I run Pop OS.
Pop OS, so you run Ubuntu. You shouldn't run into any issues with that, should you?
No, I don't run into that's why I'm using it, because I haven't run into any issues with it.
Yeah. It's a good place to start, everyone. That's where I started. Not on Pop, but on Ubuntu way back then, because you know what? It worked. Most importantly, it booted that new, this is how long ago I started doing this, UEFI, Moon technology, that everyone else was like, I don't know how to install a boot partition. And Canonical figured it out, man. So good on them from back in the day. It's quite happy.
All right, let me get into your audio a little bit. I assume that you started your audio career way before you did Linux Gamecast. So how did you start your audio career? Did you go to school for it or what?
No, it's just playing with audio has been only when I had to begrudgingly. It's not like, oh, it's so fascinating. It's so cool. I love it. I can't get it. It's like, no. Playing in bands growing up, I was always a sound guy. Naturally in university, in and out, doing audio stuff, local stations, meeting friends and all that. But no, school-wise, audio engineering, autodidact on that 100%, RTFM.
Coming from somebody that didn't go to school for it, you have made a reputation for yourself as being like the best in the business, basically.
I don't know. I would never say that because I'm learning. I'm learning new stuff each and every day. And, it's just reading how to do it. I mean, it's not, you got to put the time into figuring it out. And audio on Linux is definitely a mess in the sense that you will find yourself digging through a mailing list post from 12 years ago to find the answer to the one question Google give you a shrug emoji for. That's a real thing. But when I run into stuff like that, at least for the last 10 years, I try to make a post, do a video, and be like, hey, man, here's that thing. Because a lot of the guides and how-tos I do are not for the masses. They're for the next me, the next person that is on this path, and they hit Google, and Google will like, here's that one video. Save them that journey, which that's the important thing.
Well, that's something it's a credit to you because you do so many good tutorials, and well, we'll get into the tutorials here, but let's start off with Linux Gamecast.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that you decided to start Linux Gamecast?
Because everyone was doing a bad job showing off Linux gaming videos. I thought I could do better.
Okay. Do you think you succeeded?
I did better than they did. I don't know if I succeeded. Yeah, Linux Gamecast. Are you talking about Linux Gamecast, the site or the podcast? Because Linux Gamecast, the site, predates by a chunk.
So basically you started Linux Gamecast as a website, and what was it exactly?
Purely game capture.
Well, I would say that you succeeded because I'm sorry, even still today, I think there's a lot of gap between good quality gaming on Linux. So I would say that you succeeded, but that's my opinion.
Well, what it rolls down into is quite simply this. The reason I started doing it is like, oh, that's making it look bad. I want it to look as good as possible when somebody goes, hey, man, I'm thinking about gaming. or I'm thinking about running a Linux Kinect game, if they're watching something I made, if they're watching one of my live streams, for everyone's sake, I want it to be as good or if not better than anyone streaming on Windows or anything like that. They're like, oh, let me show you what's possible on Linux. Don't give them an excuse. Go, well, it doesn't look good or their audio's messed up or anything like that. I'm like, no, it's fine over here.
Yep. Well, okay, so Linux Gamecast is at episode 401 as of this recording.
Yeah, that seems legit.
So this is like a ton of work that you put in over the years. What would you consider to be the utmost goal for Linux Gamecast? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by putting it out there?
We're just having fun. We couldn't do what we do for as long as we do if we were trying to accomplish something. Like, there's no grand design, grand plan. That's one of the things I see that I think kills. I've seen shows come and go and people start doing this type of stuff and leave because they're trying to cut out their slice of pie. And they're like, oh, I'm going to be doing this and be super successful. I don't know if the user base is there, It's like, hey, this is a conversation that we're going to have anyway. These are the games that we'd be playing anyway. Why not just build a system and infrastructure and a network to share it with everyone else? And if you like it, hey, come check it out. I'm not trying to get famous. More attention is like less we can get away with. So, yeah, enjoy it. I mean, if you want to do it, if it's something you enjoy doing, keep doing it. But yeah, to like jump into it to say, it's going to be a career or something like that. I mean, have at it, but, might not stick with it a long time. It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but that kind of boils down to, you're not making any money. We're just doing this on a volunteer basis. So have fun doing it. If we're not having fun doing it, we're not going to keep doing it.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people get into, like, say, YouTube or that kind of genre. And you're right. They get into either make money or to get famous, and their heart's not in it. It's not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Well, looking at it as a career, you got to understand, Rocco and myself, we're old. We remember a time. We remember this time where professional streamer was not a valid career path.
No, it wasn't.
That's very much a thing now. And, it would be very difficult for either of us to put ourselves in the shoes of a teenager going, hey, it's about as likely as getting on a professional sports team, becoming a professional streamer, but, as likely as getting an MBA or, being making enough on Twitch or YouTube. And no one would stop a kid or anyone, crush their dreams saying, no, you will never play professional sports, nor do I think you should do that if you have a kid at home. It's like, I want to be a pro streamer. Help them out, but, make sure they keep grades and all that. I fully understand, like, the drive, the thirst for it, but I don't know if that could be, that wouldn't get me up in the morning.
Right. Well, any time you have a show that is that is successful, you're going to need some chemistry between the people that are on it. And I think you guys nail it both on the Gamecast and LWDW. So how did you go about picking these hosts?
They lost the bets. Drew the short straws. I mean, between that and kidnapping,
right.
We just ran into each other. It's organic. There wasn't a call for host at any point. Never has been. Ran into Jordan on Google Hangout. We're like, yo, do you Linux? I'm like, yeah, I Linux too. Let's talk Linux. That's how that started. And we were talking, the Linux to each other. Then we're like, hey, we should probably just record this since we're on Hangouts talking to each other. And we did that. Then Pedro messed up and he started watching like our YouTube videos. And Pedro's like, hey, I Linux. And we're like, hey, come Linux with us. Then we had three of us and it was just one big happy Linux.
Nice. I love it. All right. So LWDW is you, Pedro, and Jill. And you all three work
in its
together.
current incarnation.
Right. It didn't start out that way. So, well, give us a little history on it. How did it start out?
First, it was myself, the developer of Lutris, and Pedro. I think it was just me and Pedro at first. Then we got Matthew Colandon. He was in. Then it was back to me and Pedro. Then now currently it's Jill, myself, and Pedro.
Well, you work together very well, and you do this live. So it's not like, you're hiding any mistakes, or you're putting this out. Do you have any like horror stories of things going wrong during the live show?
I think the best horror stories we can tell now, and that even the most cataclysmic doomsday prophecy of an issue just makes us giggle inside at this point, because anything that has broken or can possibly go wrong has over the past decade. Everything, power outages, we've had SSDs on laptops die immediately before show.
Oh my.
Network going down completely, cameras dying, audio glitching out. You name it, it has absolutely happened. And you do something for 10 years, you better get good at dealing with fires. I mean, you got to understand, once you start doing these live, at first, most of the entertainment's going to be sitting around with your popcorn waiting for something to go wrong. That's what people are going to show up for.
Well, with the Biddle live stream that we do every week, so many times things have gone wrong, and it's so not fun while it's happening. But
what's your favorite part? My favorite part is somebody telling you that something that you know is wrong on the stream. Now, it's nowhere near as entertaining, because you rewind like 7 years ago, stream delay was about 1.5 minutes.
Yep.
So you were halfway done fixing the problem. Like, hey, did you notice the thing went wrong? Now, a very important thing for anybody that's going to be doing any type of streaming audio-wise is tied into this board. Outside of the mix minuses, I have a mix of everything that's going out on the stream. That's very important, because one thing you learn is there's this subset of fans that will create problems that are imaginary. Just so you'll go, oh, is that a problem? And they'll go, oh, I have received attention. Do not reward bad behavior, kids. But once you have a solid mix and you know what's going on, because I remember when I first starting, I could hear myself. I could hear, so I was talking to you, but I didn't know what the final mix was. I was worried about whose levels were level. Was I too loud? And is everyone else too quiet? Mine. These are things that you learn later on. But biggest dumpster fire. Here's a good one. Everyone home and enjoy. Whatever episode we're on now is technically, because Jordan and I, this is a great audio story too. We recorded. Now this is like Linux Gamecast episode 23, 24, right? We get done with it. We weren't doing it live. This is just Jordan and myself. We get done recording, like, all right, then, cheers, good night, all that. Jordan gets a text from me probably about 30 minutes later. Like, yeah, I only recorded my voice.
Oh, my.
So we had to do a take 2 on that.
Well, I can tell you that you had mentioned about audio levels being different, and that was one of the hardest things to deal with for me, knowing what was my level compared to everybody else. There were so many times I did the live stream that I was either louder than somebody or they were louder than me. And oh my gosh, that is like one of my biggest enemies in doing live streams.
Yeah, it depends on how you're doing live streams. With us, one of the reasons I've set up, like, everyone has their own channel, everyone has their own boxes for that reason of, because like say we're doing like a group Discord, everyone's on that one channel, so you'd have to individually adjust everyone's volume. Then you had your overall volume.
Yep.
And that's just a night. I mean, we do that in the after shows and on Saturdays as we open up our Discord. Everyone comes in and we play some games. But, that's usually manageable. But when like 30 people, I wouldn't even tango with that.
Well, it's one audio channel coming in through Zoom, and that's
Exactly.
the biggest problem. So it's like, you're trying to manage 30 some people's audio level. There's no way to manage it. There's just no way to it. So the best that you can hope for is that you can get your level somewhat similar to most of their levels.
That, or I'll just, do dual compression on like the Discord channel. That's why it has its own thing, and it's going to be smashed. Compression up, compression down. And it's going to be very tight, so they can't blow each other. No one can blow anybody's ears off.
Well, I would love to know the whole hardware setup there. Can you give us the Cliff Notes version of the hardware setup?
It's quite simple. It's 4 PCs. Main PC is kind of like the hub. We have 2 PCs under me. They're just old. I mean, these things are old. Optiplex 3010s. They don't even have a USB 3. Had to add a USB 3 card to each one of them. They're just tied in. Let's see. No sound cards. We do everything over net jack, IP-based audio system. That's how all that's routed. Video out, that's what you see there. That's split. That's run into some of the Blackmagic cards. Audio box is under here. That's running jack. It's running net jack, running outdoor. It's taking all the audio coming in, like we're talking back and forwards. It's doing digital mix minus, so we're able to talk over each other at the same time. That's very important. Audio, echo cancellation done in software. That's why you will see people that are trained to wait their turn to talk. Like, that's not natural at all. You need to be able to talk over each other. That was kind of a very important thing for us. And audio gets processed. It comes over to the main box, which is the one that you're seeing here. And that is, it's recorded on the audio box. It comes to the streaming box. That's where it goes out. I just rewired everything. When I say wire, I moved some digital bits around. So we're doing a 6-track recording to OBS, which, multi-track, easy enough. And everything is 32-bit float at 48K. So, yeah, not much to it.
It's simple. It's just simple.
It really is.
I love it. Oh, man. Well, I got off on the rabbit trail of audio hardware, but I would like to ask you about LWDW. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to start doing a Linux news show?
I needed something to test hardware and audio stuff on for the big show on Saturdays.
And that's it?
That's it.
Nice.
That's where I test stuff.
All right. So I do want to ask you, and I think this is one of my most important questions to me personally. You know all about audio. It would be so simple.
You keep saying that.
Well, it would be so simple for you to put out just an audio podcast.
I do. That's average 22,000 downloads per week.
Okay. So in a world where most of the Linux content out there is audio only, why do you consider it important enough to do the video part?
Because that is for everyone. We do the video part because we do a live show. We were not, we're primarily 99% of our audience. Like for LWDW, that's a tiny show. We probably get like 5,000 to 7,000 downloads a week on that audio wise. Because I don't use third-party hosting. We pay with our own cheddar for that hosting. On top of that, with the video. But what you have is, the people who are like the super members of your community. They're always there, every single week. They show up for the event. They're part of chat. They're talking to you. So you got to put on a good show for them. You want to put on a good show and be like, hey, man, I want to give you the best that I'm capable of. And every now and then, somebody might be a little Linux curious. They show up. I want to have that there. I'm like, hey, we can participate. We can jam. You can play games with us. And, the video stuff's easy to know. I mean,
well,
I understand, we were talking before you started the recording, and it's like, yeah, I remember those days.
Well, you wait to the end when I tell you. But you also put out videos on hardware tutorials, software tutorials, all kinds of different tutorials. You don't have to.
No.
Why do you do that for the community? You could go and you could just do your show without putting that stuff out there, but you choose to take the extra time, the extra effort to put all of those tutorials out there.
This kind of boils down to the way my brain meets work, because, you don't want to be a do-nothing, delete expletive. Can't stand that. If I'm going to complain about something, how about I be part of the solution instead of part of the problem? There's no, much as you'd love to believe, YouTube comments, Twitter comments, professional critic, man, internet's full. They're good. Probably don't need any extra ones. So if I see problems, I see an issue, I run into an issue. Especially if it takes more like 15 minutes to get it sorted, yeah, let's help out. I mean, it's not going to hurt me. It might cost me a few bucks, a little bit of time, but why not? I mean, what value? The question is so foreign to me, I'm having a hard time answering. So of course I would. Why not?
Well, but I think that's because that's the kind of person you are. And that's what I'm trying to bring out, is that you could take your time and use it elsewhere. You could do 100 different things.
Okay.
But you choose to give back to the community. And that's very important.
That's how it works. So, I mean, you are running into like people who operate as the community. That even boils back to, I want my slice of the Linux pie, for the thing I do. Pie's not big enough, Brad. It's not. So we got to share this pie. We got to help each other out. Somebody comes to me with a question. If I happen to know how to help them, I will. Simple as that. That is not, oh man. Here's a real thing. Probably every 4 to 6 months, I'll get an email from a company. This is a company recently. I'm like, hey man, we want to live stream rocket launches. It's not the company you're thinking of. And we want to bring you in and do this and da-da-da. But, we'd like to have like a 2-hour-long conversation with. That's called consulting. There's a difference between helping people out. If you got a question, that's fine. I'm going to help you out. But hey, you got to understand, like walking somebody through. I recently posted a video about how we use an echo noise cancellation program. Just for fun. I'm like, that'd be fun. Let's see how it compares to RTX voice. The questions are coming in. How I install ? I can't help you. Right. If you're not going to do the basic legwork to even get the vocabulary required to ask the correct questions, I can't help you on that. You got to work with me.
So what do you think of RTX voice?
It's cute. I mean, they tried to tie it to RTX. They forgot to lock it to where it didn't work. If you want something that is learning reinforcement driven, like there's a link on that video I did. We use noise repellent. There's another AI trained that does it real time, like RTX voice. It's great because here's what NVIDIA did do. They made it so you could double click and use it. That's the important thing. It might sound silly, you're like, oh, well, but then people can use it. I was like, oh, I'd like to show you how complex my thing is. It's like, they can double click and use it. It wins. Yep. It doesn't matter if there's another technology, if it's open source, they can double click, they can use it, it launches, done. So that's ultimately the better product, unfortunately.
Well, I have a ton more questions, but I know you're short on time, so I would like to ask you, favorite game of all time.
Favorite game of all time? What are your requirements for that? Are we talking time invested, enjoyment?
Enjoyment, I would say.
Are we talking native? Are we talking Linux, Proton, Wine? Are we talking games in general? Are we talking
Games
video
in
games?
general. Video games in general.
Video games in general. All right. It's probably going to be Quake 2.
Okay.
And that's strictly because of the multiplayer. We had university wired up, much to the chagrin of everyone tripping over Ethernet cords. Yeah, a lot of time multiplayer in that for the main reason.
All right. So then, if you could change one thing about Linux, what would it be?
What would you change about Linux? That would be a very interesting question. That is a very interesting question. What I would change about Linux is something that's currently being worked on. The name of that thing is called Pipewire. It's being developed by a fantastic lad working with Fedora and Red Hat. And it's a unified audio system that is kind of a drop-in replacement for Jack, Pulse, and ALSA and all that fun stuff. That I would change because I figure, to me, that seems to be one of the biggest hurdles for people trying to do any type of like streaming, recording, podcasting, or anything like that, is figuring out not how to audio, but which audio do I need? And how do I, Jack? What's Jack? What does that tie into? Can I use it with Pulse Audio? And just all that, just have a nice, something closer to what Apple does with Core Audio. Just one server to rule them all that can interact with everybody. So yeah, I'd change that.
Well, Jack is way, way over my head at the moment. So I have tried in the past to, set it up with complete failure. And I would love for that to be easier. So I'm right there with you.
KX Studio, do you have that installed?
Well, I don't have it installed right now. This is in the past that I've tried to set up Jack. And maybe, like I said, I was new to it and I had no idea, way over my head. So I might not have had the right stuff installed because they're really, tutorials. I know you've put out a few tutorials, but they haven't always been there as far as how to just set it up from the very beginning without knowing what's going on.
Well, Jack is a dumpster fire for far as like getting into it, because you say Jack, but are we talking about Jack 2 or Jack 1?
Good question.
And which one's better? And you're like, they're the same, but what? I'm like, all right, so you're using NetJack, but are you using NetJack 1 with NetJack 2 or Jack 1 with the NetJack? These are all possible combinations, kids. Yeah, it can be an absolute nightmare. That's why we need Pipewire. Don't worry about any of that. Let that sort what needs sorting. But yeah, that's what I want to see. It's a very easy audio subsystem.
Yep, agreed. Well, then I want to thank you for sitting down with me, and I want to thank you for all of the years of hard work and effort that you have put back into the community. From just your Gamecast to all of your tutorials to just giving back in general. And I really appreciate that, man.
It's good, brilliant, man. Thanks for being on. Just remember, we're having fun doing it. I mean, if it was work, we wouldn't keep on doing it. And pay it forward. If you see something at home, you listening, and you're like, hey, this was kind of hard to figure out. You got a camera. I don't have it around. All this started, this is very important. Maybe I should have said this up top. Everything in this room. This all started with a travel Logitech headset and a 4x3 webcam because I didn't want to spend the money on a widescreen 16:9. That's exactly where this started, with about $30 worth of equipment and my desktop computer. And it just grows from there. Don't run out and buy the mic. Do you see this often? people want the look. Like, oh, I gotta have the mic arm. I gotta have a big mic, and they'll go out and buy like possibly the worst interface known to human is like a Focusrite, the YouTuber special, and like plug a low output dynamic mic into it. And like, it sounds like static. Yeah, I know. But once they get the look, it's like, I want to stream. I want the flashy background, the RGBs, but they don't know how to do it. Find out if you like doing it, or if you're going to have a good time doing it first before you spend the money. Turns out I had a good time doing it. I get to stuff like this, and we get to hang out with our community and everyone else's, man. So that's the important thing. You know, you get to meet new people, have a good time. Probably not the best idea to try to make a career out of it, but if you do, I wish you the best of luck as well.
All right. How can people get in touch with you, Vin?
There's this. All right. Just for the people listening. There's a super secret way of doing this. I'm just going to tell you, between you and me, I have very cleverly disguised a button at LinuxGameCast.com. It's called Contact. If you click on that, it'll give you a forum where you can tippy tap anything you want and we'll get a copy. Or you can just at me on Twitter.
That is like amazing. Groundbreaking, I would say.
I don't know, man. Some people like to screech and yell into the ether and like, why didn't you contact me? Probably because I'm not psychic. Probably. I mean, if I was a betting man and I had to put a pin on something, that's why.
Probably why. All right. Again, thank you, Vin. I appreciate it.
Yeah. If you have any questions or anyone has any questions, let me know. And anything I can do to help out, I'm fine with that.
All right. Thank you all for joining us this week as we spotlight the best thing about Linux, our community. Until next time, long live Linux.